Hello and welcome to Stitches and Slapdashery, Slowvember, day 29. Sew something, maybe a fun bag for nature walk collecting. Well, as you probably know, I already sewed a bag for nature walk collecting, also known as foraging, a few weeks ago. But I do need to make a couple of bags for gifting, so this is perfect. Yesterday, I went to visit with a friend and we went to the big mall in town and had a good walk around the whole thing. Went into a few places, Sport Check, Old Navy, Body Shop. Body Shop was actually the reason I was there. And that's the only place I actually ended up spending any money. But it was good to look around and see what was there. Everywhere is absolutely mobbed for the Black Friday sales right now. But the one benefit of the Body Shop going in there right now is that they've got a really good sale on. And I was buying product that I would have bought anyway for myself, which is that hemp body butter, which I absolutely love. But I also took the opportunity to pick up this Satsuma hand cream, which was half price, for my friend to go with the scroll and the gnome tree. And I also picked up, oh, it's hidden behind my sewing machine. Hold on 1 second. I also picked up these products for Mr. Stitch's 65th birthday. We don't tend to do a lot of gifting to each other for birthdays, but I thought this would be nice. It's a olive shower gel and the body lotion and the body butter. And it's a nice, delicate smell. It's not overly perfumed or anything. It's just got a nice green, natural smell. And I'm hoping he's going to like them. So, of course, I need 2 gift bags. And rather than trying to find something I already have, of course I'm going to make 2 more gift bags, especially for these gifts. On this, you'll have seen these cute little gnomes, and the fabric I used for that was this one. I don't have a very big piece of it. This is it. I think that's all I bought. I probably just bought a bit of it because I couldn't resist it, and I thought I'll just get like a 1/4 of a meter or something. But it's perfect for a drawstring bag. So what I'll do, I'm not going to overthink the size I want for this. I'll just cut 2 pieces out of this that look like a sensible sized rectangle for putting these little gifts in. And I'll just need to cut a couple more pieces out of some lining fabric. And I think what I'm going to use is this. I bought quite a bit of this on one of my trips to Fabricland this year. It was on clearance, and I thought it would be perfect for bag linings. It's just lots of letters, and every now and again there are words picked out in gold, like gratitude, memory, kindness, love, community. And I'm going to use that for the inside of the bag. One thing I do need to go and find is a little bit of something for a drawstring. I have a few options here. I have a buffalo plaid ribbon. Looks pretty good. I have this twill tape, which is tan with a red snowflake. Not really loving that option. I have a white twill tape. These are really tangled together. A white twill tape with red snowflakes and a silver edge, which is looking very promising. And I have a white one with, I think that's a green snowflake and a silver edge. I'm definitely leaning towards the red snowflakes. So let's put the other ones out of the way for now. Keep that one here. Shove a few things out of my way because this table, as always, is a little bit cluttered around the edges. So I maximized my use of the fabric by cutting two 11-inch squares from this gnome fabric. And the perfect thing about cutting squares is that I can now decide which way round to put them to see as many gnomes as possible the right way up. It's going to be tough. I think I like this way for that one. And then for this piece, I think we're going to go with this way for this one. There are two 11-inch squares of my lining. And I've also cut two strips for my drawstring channels, 2.5 inches wide by 11 inches as well. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do a double hem on each end of my drawstring channels, which will then make them narrower than these guys, which is what I need them to be. I'm just going to press that. I folded over the ends of my drawstring channels about 1 centimeter twice, very approximately. I did not measure. They should be approximately the same length by the time you've done a double hem on each side, and I need to just sew down those ends before I do anything else. My machine is loaded with white thread, and let's get started on the sewing. I'm just going to grab a leader first. Always nice to have a little piece of fabric like this to sew onto first, and then sew off onto what you're working on, and then sew onto it at the end, especially when you just put a new bobbin in and you haven't tested out the stitch on your machine yet. All right, let's sew this. I am just doing the most basic drawstring bag I know how to make without bothering to look up any instructions. I'm going to sew along this fold here so that it's nice and tidy. And then I like to chain sew, which means I'm not going to break my thread here. I'm going to sew straight onto the next piece. And I need to get myself some snippy scissors. What did these get on them? They look like they've got paint on them. Not sure how that happened. And now I'm going to sew the second hem on this strip. And then the second hem on this one. And then onto my little leader ender. Now I need to fold these over on themselves with the right side in and iron that. And there are my drawstring channels ready to go. So now all you have to do is you grab one of your outers, one of your linings, and one of your drawstring channels, and you construct half the bag. Sometimes I do this in 2 steps. If I'm really concerned about how it's going to turn out, I will baste that on, and then I'll do the second part. But I'm just going to be Mrs. Brave today and get it all done in one seam. I'm not even going to measure that I've got that perfectly centered. Here's a good way to get it centered. Let's do it a little bit properly, Nicola. So if I make a little crease in that in the middle, and then I make a little crease in the middle of this, just a finger press. Now I can match those 2 up, and then I'll know it's centered. So much better. Sorry, my ring keeps hitting the sewing machine. It's annoying, isn't it? I'm annoying myself now. Okay, now that that's on the right side of that, I'm going to turn my lining right side down so that the 2 pretty sides are facing each other, as some people say. Match everything up. You can use pins or clips, or if you're feeling extra brave, you don't have to use anything at all. You can just place it on and sew it. So there it is, ready for sewing. And in the interest of efficiency, and so I can chain sew easily, I'm going to get the next one pinned as well. Lining right side down, and if you've got a directional print like I do, make sure it's the right way up. It was funny, the other day I was watching one of the YouTube channels that I've been following for a really long time, and this person has made so many bags and is very prolific in putting out videos. But they used a one-way print for a tote bag, and it was one piece of fabric. So when you looked at one side of the fabric, or the bag, finished bag, the fabric was the correct way up. But on the other side of the tote bag, the pattern was upside down, and I just thought that was really odd that they would leave it like that and not either use a one-way, two-way print, use a multi-directional print, or join the 2 pieces at the bottom so that they're facing the correct way. My sense of order was triggered there very much, I'm afraid. I'm going to sew with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance throughout, because that's the side of my quilting foot, or my walking foot on my sewing machine, and it's just easy to keep everything straight. If the whole foot is on the fabric and I'm following the edge, the right hand edge, don't have to think twice about it. My drawstring channel is caught between the layers, and I'm going to iron that. And now all we have to do is make sure the gnomes are matching each other and the letters are matching each other. A slight change of plan on that. Because the drawstring channel is facing towards the lining here, and the seam allowance is facing down to the gnomes. I've pressed the other one the other way so that the channel is facing the gnomes and the seam allowance is facing the letters, purely so that I can get these seams to nest nicely. I don't know if it really matters in the final result, but it makes me feel better about it. Nice thing about when the seam allowance is going the opposite ways, they just sit together so nicely. You're not fighting them. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be boxing this bag, so I'm not going to curve my corners or anything. It's just going to be square corners, and then I'm going to box them before it's finished. Now I want to make the bag 3D and have some width or depth to it, depending on how you look at it. So I'm going to squash the corners and sew across them. First, I'm going to mark them. And it doesn't really matter what pen you use for this because you're going to be hiding the fabric edge inside the bag. Now you have to bear in mind that whatever you incorporate into your little boxed bottom is going to take away from the height of the bag. I'm not putting that much in this bag, so I think I could probably go with quite a good amount of width. And my little tree has quite a wide base to it, and it'd be nice if it fits in there properly. If I do a 2-inch box bottom, I should have about a 4-inch base. That might be a bit much for a small bag like this, because also it takes away from the width of the bag. 2 inches off each side might be a little bit drastic. I'm going to go with 1.5 inches, and I'm going to measure it from the stitching. I'm going to have to peer closely at my work because I can't see the white thread. So the white stitching is here, and I've drawn a line to make a box 1.5 inches square, not including my seam allowances. Once I drew my corner on here, I noticed that my seam is very, very close to here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more stitching to that side. Because I don't want to be too close to that. There are 2 ways to box the bottom. You can just squish the corner and sew it and then trim it, or you can cut it. Hang on a minute. I need to think about this, because if you sew it using the lines as a guide, then you're going to be cutting it inside it. Whereas if I cut along the lines and then sew it, the line is going to be way out here. I want to sew it first. I'm glad I thought about that. I'm pretty tired, but I'm glad my brain is still working. So I would like the pen line to be my sewing line. We're going to make sure that our seam allowances are going opposite directions. Having wet fingers helps. And in fact, if you find the fabric fighting you, cutting off the corner is a handy thing to do. So seam allowances both ways. Stick a pin in this side, right on the seam. See if it comes out on the seam on the other side. It definitely was not. So obviously haven't got those lined up very well. All right, there's a pin in the seam that side, a pin in the seam that side. I think we are good to pin and sew. I'll start with this blue line and just head straight across in the same direction. I could have drawn the line on both sides, and that way I'd have a line to follow all the way across, but I think I can eyeball it. All my boxy bottoms are done. I'm going to take a second to iron back the seam allowances on my lining piece just to make it easier to sew it shut. And now I can turn it right side out. Lining goes into the outer. Sometimes it pays to do the top stitching before closing the bottom of the bag, because then you can get your hand up inside there and make sure that the seam allowances are behaving themselves. I don't think my seam allowances are behaving themselves at all here. Once everything's sitting nicely, you can extend your stitch length. I've had it on 2.6. I'm going to put it on 3.5 for my top stitching. I'll take that off just to make it easier. Right, we need a drawstring. In fact, we need 2 drawstrings. Well, I'm going to have to use this bodkin tonight. The one I really like, I got it out of my little drawer and dropped it, and I don't know where it went. Darn, darn, darn. Okay, I'm just going to do the minimum amount I can get away with on here. So if I put that through and knot it here, it's going to be plenty long enough by the time the drawstring is pulled up. So I need 2 pieces like that. This is not my favourite way of doing it. The other bodkin has a little claw almost that grabs the thing that you're pulling through, whereas this can pull out. Yeah, I don't know where it went. It literally bounced off me and it went somewhere over where my shelves are. So annoying. I don't want this to twist, so I'm just hoping it will be all right. Not to that. If I wanted to do a super wonderful job, I suppose I could add a little jingly bell to the end of that, couldn't I? But I'm not going to. Not today. See what I mean about it pulling out. Ta-da! What's nice about putting the 2 drawstring cords in is that it always holds closed, whereas if you just have one, it tends to like flop open again. Before I put the Christmas tree back in there, I'm just going to test out these Body Shop products in there and see what the size is like, because I need to make another bag for these and I want to know if it works. Yeah, well, that's decided. I'm going to make another bag exactly the same size but in a different fabric for those things. Let's get the tree in there and the scroll and the hand cream. Make sure it's closed because I don't want it leaking everywhere. And I'm getting croaky. I need more tea. Finished. Of course, you could make that as an unlined bag, but I do like a lined bag. Now I just need to find some fabric that Mr. Stitches would like for his birthday. Well, that was an easy decision. My batik drawer is to my left here. All I had to do was reach out, open the drawer, and as soon as I saw this turtle fabric, I knew that this was the one. So I'm just going to make exactly the same size bag with this fabric. So I'll turn the camera off and I'll show you it when it's done. Look at the beautiful fabric I found for Mr. Stitch's birthday bag. It makes a gorgeous bag for sure. And I found some purple paracord in the stash for the drawstring, which works nicely. I think he's going to like that. And then the inside is another batik, but not one that I'm absolutely mad about. So I don't mind hiding it inside a bag. And it's actually snowflakes. So if I had done a nicer job at closing up this lining hole, I guess it could have been a reversible bag. But because of my messy, well, it's not messy, it's just black thread is not exactly matching the fabric. Because of that, it's not really a reversible bag. But hey, the turtles are the stars. There was something I did slightly differently with this. Yeah. Before I turned the bag to the right side, this time I remembered to press my seam allowances open at this junction here. And I also, when I turned it through, made sure that the seam allowances were going in opposite directions. In other words, they were open before I top stitched, and it was much, much better. So now these lovely olive products can go in the bag. and it can close up and hold them perfectly. Well, that was a fun little sewing session. Not so little sewing session. I always feel like I can run these bags up in 10 minutes flat, and it's not true. I can't. The first one took longer than the second one because, of course, I was filming and talking about what I was doing as I was doing it. So I think the second one probably took about 20 minutes. But yes, I'm really happy with how they turned out, and hopefully I'll get to see my friend soon to give her gift. And then Mr. Stitch's birthday is on December 9th. So I'm well prepared for that. Thanks for being here with me again today, and I'll see you again tomorrow for the last Slowvember.